Hi, I'm Jonathan Rhys Meyers. Thank you for watching Film News. Keep watching, keep thinking, keep struggling, keep making work.
Jonathan Rhys Meyers, it's great to see you. How are you doing today?
Yeah, really good, thanks. You?
Good stuff. Congratulations on London Town, a wonderful film. Were you sold on the script from the word go?
I was given the script in 2011. Derek sent me the script. Originally, he kind of wanted me to play the father, and I said I might be a little bit too young for that. I may be more, my personality may be more suited to Strummer. And so he thought about it for a while and he said, actually, I think you're right. But then the film didn't happen till much later. It's one of those movies, it's a small movie, we didn't have a big budget, you know. It's like a small movie with an enormous heart rather than an enormous movie with no heart. So it makes it more complicated to make it. It makes it more difficult for people to get the money and get everybody in place. But we did, and it was good fun, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you played Joe Strummer of The Clash, obviously a true musical icon. Mm-hmm. Was that a daunting prospect for you then?
Well, it's always, I've played people who are, well known in life before. Yeah, it's always daunting because people want specifics, Not everybody's going to like it, not everybody's going to like the performance, everybody's got an idea of what their icon is, and it's all from a different perspective. So this was like the Strummer before they made sort of like big money. He's still just they're a working band. They always were a working band. The Clash never made Aerosmith money because they broke up too early to make Aerosmith money, So they were always a hard working band. After they did their gigs and their albums, they would have money to pay their road crew and to pay the stadiums and all of this. But they didn't have very left, not a great deal left to have anything like that you could do something positive with. You know what I mean? So there was always this sense of struggle, with them, which sort of gave them a personality, gave their music an authenticity because it was the music of a hard-working band. It wasn't formulaic, they hadn't got to that stadium stage. I mean, they played a lot of big gigs, of course they did, and they were a huge band, but not to the extent of, what came after them, the sort of like the Aerosmiths, Bon Jovis, Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, where they were playing to like 100,000 people every night. And of course, at that time, tapes were going and CDs were just coming out. And I can remember CDs were like $18.99 for a CD. Exactly. So these guys were making serious money. The Clash broke up before that sort of thing came in. I think it helped them and helped them to stay true to themselves as artists. But this is the Strummer before they start making any money.
Yeah. I mean, you sing all the live vocals and guitars, I hear as well.
Yeah, I played some rhythm guitar, but I'm smart enough to know that when you have a better guitar player in the room, let him play the guitar.
But you're always a big Clash fan yourself, then, personally.
Yes, personally, I was, yeah. But at the same time, not so much a fan that just that that I lost my objective.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It's like. Sometimes somebody can want to play a role, whatever the role may be, who cares? And it's about somebody who's lived. But they have been fascinated and obsessed with this person the whole life. Well, then you can't take yourself out of it. You have to be very objective about who you're playing. So I love The Clash, but I didn't have posters of The Clash on my wall, and I didn't have posters of Joe Strummer, so I wasn't playing somebody who I sort of like personally idolized. I love the band because I love their music. Their music's extraordinary. So I didn't love Elvis either. So when I played Elvis, I could be objective about who Elvis was. I could actually get away from the fact that they're a rock star and down to the fact that Joe Strummer was a middle class kid who hated the middle class because the middle is the middle, and who wants to be in the middle? Hated the elitism of England at that time, and England still maybe. And found more solace in being viewed as the working class hero. But of course, Joe Strummer wasn't a working class hero; he was the son of a diplomat. So it's slightly different.
Yeah. Very true. But the film itself was shot in 24 days, pretty tight, and on location in East London. What were the biggest challenges apart from the sort of time frame for yourself?
It's not really, I mean, it's like you do your research, and if it's like it's a mimicking job in one way, but then you have to mimic sort of like authentically. So I just got stuck in. I played the guitar a lot in my house in London, which I no longer live here. But I got a lot of tape. You know, well, computer gives you the tape, whatever. So you do your research and you look at interviews and stuff like that, and you pick certain things out in interviews that a strummer. Now you don't have to be strummer 24 hours a day, because strummer wasn't a strummer 24 hours a day. You only have to be it for when you need to turn it on. Like an actor has to be so, you know, and it was like they get up, they brush their teeth, they comb their hair, you know, they talk to their mum, they eat bacon and eggs for breakfast. All of these things are not rock and roll.
Yeah.
Calling your mum's not rock and roll. You only have to be rock and roll for certain parts of the day, you know. And so I just picked these little things out that I found about Strummer that I could attach to myself, and that's it.
And what was it like working with Daniel Huddlestone?
Yeah, he's gorgeous. Yeah, he's lovely. He's one of those, you know, all singing, all dancing, super talented, you know, like wonderkins. But he's really sweet. You know, he's from Essex. He's got, you know, he's a bit of a wide boy. So I kind of like that about him. You know, I found his energy really attractive. I loved the night when we were doing the scene where he's dressed up as a woman driving the cab, because I was like, oh my God, you look like Jodie Foster in Taxi Driver. He did. He was like amazing. And then Nell, who was playing Vivian, she was also such a sweet girl, such a sweet energy. And the Clash boys were great. You know, Dave, Pete, and Alex were fantastic. Yeah, you know, it was a really easygoing job. You know, it wasn't like there was even though it was shot in 24 days, we never felt that there was an enormous amount of pressure. You know, I mean, I'm shooting Vikings right now. There's way more pressure with Vikings than there ever was with London Town. And everybody just knew what they were up to, you know?
Yeah, no, true. I mean, your role as a glam superstar in Velvet Goldmine made a big impact. You played Elvis Presley, as you said, and your immediate family are heavily involved in music as well. Do you think that music is in your DNA?
Well, obviously, yeah, because I played the guitar and I played the flute. But yeah, obviously, music's in my DNA, and you know, you wouldn't be able to do different accents in movies if you didn't have a musical ear, because it's all A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So you know, I mean, there's that certain element. You know, I mean, I've got one brother who's an excellent guitar player, another brother who's an excellent bass player. My dad plays, and my brother in America is he's a good drummer. So you know, but
you got a band, eh?
I don't want a band.
But what musician would you like to play next if you could choose one?
Rory Gallagher.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well,
Rory Gallagher is the greatest guitar player of all time. Well, maybe now you could argue that, you know, maybe Django Reinhardt was extraordinary, and he was, and you know, Muddy Waters was an extraordinary guitar player. I mean, but of course, this is where Rory learned all his stuff. And Jimi Hendrix was a wonderful guitar player. But I don't think I think his live performance in 1974 of Walking on Hot Coals is the greatest 11 minutes of music ever played on an Irish stage. Simple.
Fantastic.
He's hands down, he's the best. Yeah.
I mean, you've starred in Bend It Like Beckham, Vanity Fair, Alexander, Mission Impossible 3, From Paris with Love.
Well, I was in Alexander for like 10 minutes. Let's not say I starred in Alexander.
But you've been in many films. What have your highlights been across the years so far?
Oh, you know, you have good times. It's making a film is you have good times and bad times making a film. There's no sort of, I don't know anybody who said, oh man, I just had an amazing time making that film. Well, I had some amazing moments when I was making a film, but you're going to work and it's all very serious. Yeah, of course, who doesn't like to be on a set knowing that Woody Allen's your director? It was really, really nice. I became quite good friends with Travolta. He was really, really such a sweet guy. Being on the circus that's Mission Impossible was kind of interesting, because that's a whole circus of people. You know what I mean? It's like you're making a known product. And even though I adored working with J.J. Abrams, who's the director, he's a genius in many, many ways. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, who I loved working with on it, because he was a genius in many, many ways. God rest his soul. Is that, you know, it was that studio circus thing, so it was kind of funny. It was like the circus has come to town vibe. But you know, you have highlights and lowlights. I mean, I don't know. It's been a long career, 24 years. I would have to think about it a little bit more to be able to give you a solid answer.
But everyone has a lucky break somewhere along the line. What was yours?
Oh, I don't know. As an actor, you know, people kind of think that you get to a sort of, you do one thing, you do a film, and the film is really, really good, and suddenly, like, you're there. No, you're not there. The movie industry is a very strange thing. You can win an Oscar on Sunday night, for Best Actor and not work for 6 months.
Very true.
Do you know, it's sort of like the film industry is so, it's the ultimate precariat, you know, it's, so I don't know, I don't think any actor ever feels that they had a lucky break. I mean, sometimes, I mean, okay, if I went off and did a film, say I did a film in the next year and suddenly I made $500 million at the box office and got fucking 11 Academy Awards, and that would be seen as an extraordinary, huge lucky break, and for a while you will glide along on this, but you're only as good as your last job. It's simple.
And what other projects have you got in the pipeline?
Well, I shot an independent movie at the start of the year, last year, called Damascus Cover. I don't know when that'll come out. I shot a film before I did Vikings, called Black Butterfly with Antonio Banderas, who's actually lovely, really nice. He's one of the highlights. He's a really good guy. And then I do Vikings, and I'm shooting a film with Harald Svart, the Norwegian director, called The 12th Man. And after that, I don't know. I'll have to go back cap in hand and start looking for more work, like everybody else.
Well, you know, you probably win an Oscar for this one, maybe. So
I'm not quite sure I'll win an Oscar for this one, but I just hope that people like the movie. We didn't have a great deal of resources. We had the resources that we could gather at the time. What we did have is we had Daniel Huddleston, who's an extraordinary energy. We had Nell, who's an extraordinary energy as a young girl. We had Dougray and Natasha, who are so sort of mature in who they are as actors, that it brings some sort of stability. However, stability breeds instability, as you can see throughout the film. Lovely Tom Hughes, who's a very conscientious actor, so you can see the conscientiousness in him. There's an authenticity to his conscientiousness, and then sort of, you know, and the music, you know, who doesn't want to watch a movie with, you know, Sex Pistols, Clash, Toots and the Maytals? I mean, it's just like that is the soundtrack for, you know, for the entirety of sort of like West 14. It's like that is the soundtrack that, you know, Camden, Notting Hill Gate, Ladbroke Grove. You know, I remember coming to London even in the sort of like early 90s when I first started coming to London. And it was definitely a feeling, you know. I can remember listening to Toots and the Maytals down there, and it was like, that is very much the sound. It's very much a sound of London, even though it comes from, you know, the Caribbean or Jamaica or wherever they were making the music. It actually, I attach it more to London, to the streets of London, that type of music, you know what I mean? And the Clash borrowed heavily from these guys, you know. It's, especially like Paul Cinnamon was just a reggae head and ska head, you know what I mean? All his tapes were all like sort of, you know, really obscure ska music. And you know, they had Joe's the poet, and they had Mick, who's the incredible guitar player who could put incredibly beautiful sounds to give it a melodic thing. Not like the Sex Pistols, who were just like screaming anarchy. I mean, it's like, but it was good. It was vibrant. It was like a sword cutting through the boredom at that time, you know. Especially sort of that linked to Vivienne Westwood's Sex Shop, and you know, it was the scene that was happening, you know. Whereas the Clash were a more elevated version of that scene. You know, it wasn't that they were just screaming out. They knew what they were screaming about.
Yeah. They were.
There was more melody to their music. They were more accomplished musicians, certainly. I know John Lydon's an accomplished musician, but Sid couldn't play for fucking shit. You know what I mean? He couldn't even play the bass guitar when he first started. He would just go dum 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 dum. But he was a look.
Yeah, of course.
It was the look. Vivienne Westwood looked at it and she goes, "That's punk." He had the sexiness of punk, he had the wildness of punk. Johnny was a great poet and very, very intense guy, but great musicians, they weren't great musicians. It was almost like a movement thing.
Whereas the idealistic side of it.
They did, and they were very conscientious about what's happening in the world, but essentially they were better musicians.
Definitely.
The Clash were better musicians, and that's why the Clash music has gone on to be sort of like appreciated a little bit more. The Sex Pistols, no one will ever forget the Sex Pistols, and no one will ever forget Anarchy in the UK, or just, you know, there's some of their tracks were fantastic. 2 or 3 of their tracks were fantastic, but they were about one album band, you know what I mean? And it was like, and they broke up because there was too much energy, whereas the Clash had more maturity, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks a lot for your time. It's been a pleasure. It's a very heartfelt film. I really enjoyed it. I think it'll do very well.
Thank you.
Anything else to say to Film News watchers?
Well, certainly you can come and see the movie in the cinema. You can also get it on iTunes, because I believe that's what people do these days, is they sort of like try to bombard you with it. But the performances of the kids are fantastic. And it's like, it's not a huge budget movie, but it's just so well done. And I think everybody will have an interest in it, to be honest. I mean, I don't know anybody who wouldn't be interested in like listening to the music, or want to see a really sweet coming of age story, or a story about London at that time, the late 1970s, 80s, where there was a huge social upheaval in the country, you know what I mean? So, I think there's a lot in it for everybody, but just keep watching movies.
Fantastic.
And go out and make some, maybe. That's what we need. Go out and make some. If you're 16 years old and you're sitting at home and you wanted to be a director, go be a director. I'll work with you.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot for your time.
Great, yeah, it's my pleasure, man.
Thanks.
Yeah, anytime.